We're going to just start out, actually. I'm just going to give a quick introduction to the team who did amazing work. When we got done yesterday, I couldn't even believe how much we were able to accomplish. So first we have Ainsley. She's a nurse up on 5A, and Sabrina, who is their clinical resource nurse up there. And then we have Jody, who is also a nurse up there and does some charge work up there as well. And then we have Doreen, and she's the unit support worker up there. And we also had someone else. We had Sarah, and she's their educator, but unfortunately she couldn't join us today. So this was our team. I'll give you a quick rundown kind of what we were looking at. There is a 4-bed patient unit in the very back of 5A. And this is a neuro observation unit that really has higher acuity patients, gets a lot of the step down for the intensive care unit. And they're all together in one larger room. Some of the issues were staff were running all over the unit to grab supplies, go fax orders, medication in the fridges where you had to run and get that, tube feeds. They spent a lot of their time running and looking for supplies. There was also issues just in terms of infection control. It's one large unit for patients in the exact same location. So we looked at improving the efficiency and try to deal with some of the infection control issues and let's hopefully reduce some of the steps that people had to take. So this is our pre. We had a 1.3 for the evaluation on our pre-5S. We had cubic feet, so there was 104 approximately cubic feet. Now this was just in terms of storage space. It's not of the unit. We touched only about 150 items, but some of these items we didn't even know existed in there. We don't know the approximate value. A lot of this stuff was quite old. We found a medical dictionary from 1983 and an intercom system from the planes that no one knew about existed. What was really astounding, actually, was the walking distance that they had to do. If you take a look, approximately in 24 hours, one nurse, so on 12-hour days and one for the 12-hour nights, was walking about 1,200 steps to fax orders. Significant walking for the tube feeds, stocking of supplies. And these were averages that they walked. So some days it was more. That works out to 1.7 kilometers they were walking in 24 hours, or 620 a year, 620 kilometers a year. There was lots of twisting, bending, reaching around beds, wheelchairs, to their charts, to the computers. If you were tall, you couldn't even fit your legs underneath the computer because there was a broken keyboard slide there. So I will let Ainsley talk about the before.
Okay, so we're just going to go through a few of the before pictures. There's 2 desks in this room. This is the smaller one. As you can see, there was files underneath on the floor in a big bucket. Instead of utilizing the drawer, we just had them in this bucket that no one really went through. I think there was documents from the Plains Hospital in this bucket as well. You could not fit a chair under the desk because of that. There's 2 computers in the room. However, neither worked properly. You had to use both for different things. You couldn't open certain files on one, so you'd have to go to the other type thing. So that was a waste. And you can't use that little desk for anything else. It was just cluttered up with stuff. This is the shelving above that little desk. It had no real sense of organization. I think it's when we would go grab supplies, we would grab a couple extra and they would get fired on this shelf, and in no type of order. Those top shelves were really high. You never really could reach anything. Most times I wouldn't even look there to grab a supply because you wouldn't know, so you just go get more. Every bed, behind the bed is a shelf basically. And it was just kind of a catch-all for everyone, for nurses, for family, for anything. And once again, no organization. It was just cluttered with a little bit of everything. Beside every bed is a few shelves, and just for patient care items. And as you can see, it's pretty empty. I think the top shelf was utilized more, and very inappropriately, when we did have this space down below here where we could store more things for the patients. And this was just a storage cabinet right beside one of the patient beds. It left you literally no room to walk, barely any room to walk in between there, put a chair or a wheelchair. And we actually didn't even know what was stored in this cabinet. And the stuff that was in there was old documents and posters that we don't use. And this is just a diagram to show where we would have to go to get certain supplies. There wasn't much around our 4-bed unit where we could get things. Most were at the very front of the unit, whether it be the fax machine, the fridge, the tube feeds, everything was at the very opposite end. So anytime you needed something, you were walking a ton. So
these were just a couple, I'll show you quickly some of the idea sheets that staff had. These were all done prior to us even starting. And one of the ones was the no fax and copy machine. Just a lot of running for their staff. There was no space for supplies. Again, they spent a majority of their time running to gather the supplies that they needed. The filing cabinet, like Ainsley mentioned, there was stuff from the planes found in there. It wasn't user-friendly. It was heavy. They had to bend to gather any sheets. And the med fridge. So again, you always, at least 4 times a day, had to run out to gather any medications that needed to be stored in a fridge. So that caused a lot of time away from the patients as well. So we're going to start into some of the fun stuff of the after. I didn't redo this because we actually located what Ainsley had talked about with the med fridge, fax machine, the tube feeds, and the supplies. We actually moved it all into that room. So they no longer have to leave. So we've reduced their steps, so now we don't have to, I couldn't show you because it's too small on here to show you. And then now Sabrina.
Some of the before or after pictures, our biggest accomplishment probably this week that we could accomplish was removing the shelving beside that patient area. Staff have already commented, patients have already commented how much space it actually freed up. It seemed like such a small cabinet, but made a world of difference. We're no longer reaching behind to grab things. We're not twisting, we're not bending, trying to get them into a chair. We can actually fit a chair there now where we couldn't before. This area was where we originally had the medication cart, and it is beside that first original computer area. And what we did, we went to Costco and bought this huge shelving unit and brought all the common supplies we needed and brought them back there for the nurses so they no longer had to run. We had everything labeled, everything's grouped, such as respiratory things are all in one area. This is the area before where we had the old computer. We actually got it removed. We found we only needed one properly working computer back there. We did end up finding a fax machine in storage that no one was using, so we are able to now fax orders to pharmacy, fax lab recs down. We also have a refrigerator there that we had on the unit that was spared that we can use for medications now. We had a little cart that kind of behind the desk that held our charts, and we just got rid of that cart and added shelving on top there to now where we can have our charts, and it's accessible to everyone. It's easy to reach. There is a stool for shorter people to access that as well. And we've drastically cleaned up behind all the patient areas. We started buying bins and have designated bins for their own patient storage, things that we need, and it's all labeled. And prime example here, so we have everything labeled on the shelving units below just to eliminate all the clutter on top. And now there's a place for everything there for patients.
So they also worked on some standard work. And I'll show you 2 pieces, and they both kind of pertain to the same thing. One is actually to the stocking of supplies, and the other is the stocking of the new file system that they've now created. And what it'll be is 2 nurses work back there at all times, day and night, and they will be the ones who actually check the supply, both for all stock, whether it's supply stock or for their charts that they need to do. This now they only have to do nightly. It's just a visual sweep because everything has a place. It was in the right size bins. It's in appropriate color. So they can do a visual sweep and just restock anything that they may need. And that's the same as well now as their files. And one of the things that they did do actually is with their files is put it into 2 smaller cases that now fit into we got them off the floor and put them into a drawer. And if they want, they can actually carry that to the front to restock it. And so then everything's labeled, everything's clearly visible, everything is in order, and they can see what they are missing. Here is the newspaper. So some of the things that we just have to work on. On the other side of where that storage locker was removed, there is 4 patient lockers. The reason these are to be removed is they can't access them. The bed blocks them. Patients and families would have to actually walk into that other patient area to gather anything they need. So they're not used at all. It has been approved by planning, so it is just now a matter of being able to submit the rec and have them look at that. Wipeable curtains. Didn't know they existed, and they now have wipeable curtains in there. It's 75% complete, and that's because there is another drape they do need to hang up, but it was just being repaired, so we're just waiting for them to be able to do that. As well as 100%, they managed to find us some extra glove holders instead of stacking gloves on top of the paper towels. They got the glove holders, put them up, and so now they have access at all entrance points of the room. The flooring, I don't know if you could, the picture was kind of dark, but when they removed the storage, there's some flooring that needs to be patched. They did patch it so that it's not a tripping hazard, but it will have to be fixed with the linoleum. And they were aware of that prior to, so it has been agreed upon, but currently has been deferred. As well as some of the curtains needed a little bit of an extension piece. And again, mechanical was aware, but they just weren't able to get in there yesterday due to procedures and new admissions and that type of thing. So they are aware, and they will return once it is not being used. And then quickly, just some of the targets. We now have a 3 out of 5 for the new score. We removed 50 items, so it was a reduction of 34%. Our cubic feet, interestingly enough, has been reduced by 42%, but we increased the number of supplies that are actually accessible now to staff. We threw out 8 outdated manuals or textbooks in that old intercom system. Walking distance has been reduced from 620 down to 91 kilometers in a year, so that's an 85% reduction. And the twisting, the ergonomics have greatly improved, mainly for the one side and at the computer, but again, because of the four bed, the patient lockers, it still causes issues with the wheelchairs and such on that one side for them, so we weren't unfortunately be able to do that. And then to Jody.
I'm on the X. I feel like I'm trying out for like American Idol or something, but I won't sing. So just in summary, we just found it that it was really beneficial to have the resources and the support staff that were able to work with us in this short period, as I'm sure we've all experienced. So that was great to have everybody on board, especially the frontline staff involvement, because of course we had to work around the patients and the staff and all of everybody else that was involved. So we were actually able to ask them, well, what do you think about this? And if we change this, so that was nice to have. It was really nice to have the time to make those changes that we needed to make, but as I said, it was difficult to have to work around the staff. And it was really satisfying to see the end result, and there was some really great teamwork and communication, so we had a great team working together.
We have numerous people to thank. Housekeeping, Gloria, Carrie, Trina, Claudia. Laundry, Tracy. IT and Telecom, Jordan, Mike, Megan, Stu, Cameron, Rudy, Dustin, Mike, Rhea, and Barry. Maintenance is Dale and Chuck. Mechanical, Rory and Robert. Planning, Heather and Doug. All of the Unit 5A staff. To the patients and their families in the 4-bed patient room. For extra support, Carrie, Sandy, John. And for the 5S team, Doreen, Jody, Sarah, Sabrina, Ainsley. And we would also like to thank Taryn for all her help with this project. Thank you.